Hi, everybody. Welcome to the pre-show. John Emmett's checked in from, I guess, from out in Cornwall. He's not in Weymouth. Gordon Smith in Denmark. We've got a Dane with us today, Gordon, as our guest. Delighted to say. Jamie Hutchison, good afternoon. Hi, Jamie. Long time. Peter Taylor in New York City, good afternoon. Rob Sternstein, happy Tuesday. Any word on Julia? Julia is in Horse Pistol. She's on her way there now. We've got David James standing by here with us, filling her seat, not her shoes probably, but David will be great. Got a scarf on that Julia gave for the cause. And we're going to get this one on the road. Thank you for joining us.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to show number 501 here. We are live at the Beach Street Yacht Club, as usual, Studio B in San Francisco's lovely Marina District. Pedro Foiling Sailor it's we, but that's the least of our problems. Cheers from 10,000 Lakes. Blake Middleton, Chris Exley in Salem, Mass. Chris is watching because we've got a tape, a video with him. He's introducing today's special guest and the segment. On Sale Last is the name of the group. Bill Wingrove down in Tampa. Ongoing recovery from the J24 Midwinters. Roger Lockhart, greetings from a beautiful day at Balboa Yacht Club down in Orange County. David Robinson. Hi, Tom and David. Happy Patsky? How do you say that, David? Patsky. It's the day you eat fat food. Patsky.
Is that Polish?
It's Polish, indeed. It's big in Detroit, as David Robinson knows, being a good Michigan boy. Christopher Gillingham and his wife Jane are in Leamington. Blake Middleton is saying hi, cheers to David, because he had you on his Stanford team, right? He was coach?
That is right. He was my coach the entire time.
Nice. And lots of others are on here. Sorry it's wet, Pedro Foiling Sailor is saying, down in Oz. Ken Saban, western end of Lake Erie. Hello, everyone at Toledo, Ohio. David Robinson, Punch Key. Oh, that's how you pronounce it, Punch Key, he's saying. Mark Wharton Reed is in Ada, Michigan, home of Amway. Not that he's got anything to do with Amway that I know of. Stephen Ernest is on. Cheers from the Chick Magnet. That's the guy's boat I was showing you in the pre-show.
Indeed.
And we're going to feature, give a Bravo Zulu to Stephen Ernest and to John Sangmeister. Ralph Roberts, Russell Coots's coach when he was in the 84 Olympics, winning a gold medal, watching from beautiful Takapuna over on the North Shore, north of Auckland. Tuesday's Carnival has been canceled in Brazil. Carlos Aviz, who's down in Argentina, tells us. Right? Or Carlos, you in Argentina? Magnus Wheatley is on. We're going to feature Magnus's blog post today on his famously good blog called Rule 69. He's on YouTube watching. Mary Jude Szymanski was on via yesterday. She was on via Zoom with the other Zoomers. Hello, Mary Jude. James Frederick Bland. Spring has come to Hill Country in Texas. McCarthy Cup 7.8 college team racing. John Sangmeister wishing us all a happy Mardi Gras. Jody Shields down, and we got a lot of people on here down in Sydney. Darnell Reynolds that one, David. You can click that to Crouton. That Darnell Reynolds on YouTube.
Yes.
And commenting. You can block that on your computer somehow. I don't know how you do that, but that's somebody who's trying to get other people to click on that Croutonic link.
Block the user?
Yeah, block Darnell Reynolds, I think. I think that's a Crouton. Tell us, Darnell, quickly if you're not. Steve Atkins, Colton, Connecticut. We got a photo from Steve today. Mark Husted, hi guys. Congrats yesterday on the 500 show. And Mark Husted, who is the famously good baker Australian living in Göteborg, Gothenburg, Sweden, and is a pastry chef, and he's been educated on all those kinds of things. Welcome to show number 501. Well, we don't ever get through the whole theme song. That is a first. I'm your host, Tom Eamon, of course, and with us today, filling Julia's shoes, well, at least her chair, our longtime friend, David James, member of San Francisco Yacht Club over in the North Bay, St. Francis Yacht Club as well. And David, you're also a member, pray tell, of the Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club.
I am. I lived there for a couple of years, joined while I was there, and am now a non-resident member.
Well, do you speak any Cantonese? Do you speak any Shanghaiese or Mandarin?
In Cantonese, I can say left, right, and you have beautiful eyes.
Well, how about where's the toilet or another beer? Those are important things to know in another language.
They are. Another beer I could probably manage.
The other thing we used to, you know the expression, the Cantonese expression, guilo.
I do.
Which means?
Foreigner.
Ghost man, literally. You and I are ghost men because we're white. We're foreigners, right?
That's the derivation.
Sangmeister knows he's married to a Cantonese lady. Welcome, everybody. As I said, Tom Hansen will be joining us for a minute. In a minute, he's the executive director of Sail Last, Help First Sail Last. Great 501c3 down in Florida. We'll get to that in a minute. I do want to officially welcome David. He's filling in. Julia suggested David. They're longtime friends, and sadly, they're both Stanfordites. Not sadly, I tease, because David can shake his finger when somebody's a crouton. And what about that scarf that Julia gave to me this morning and said, well, put that around David's neck?
I think it's very appropriate.
It's more by way of an ascot almost. You can take it off. I just do what you want.
Well, no, I'm growing fond of it.
Nice tie.
Thank you.
I mean, you put me to shame. I'm in my usual open neck shirt, and then we got our guest down in Florida who is standing by, Tom Hansen, the executive director, as I said, of Sail Last. Big smile. I hope his internet connection is repaired. We had a bit of a problem during the tech check, and we'll get to him in a sec. David James, thanks again for joining us and for helping out. It is, as we mentioned, in NOLA, New Orleans, Louisiana. Look at Blake Middleton. He's saying, sadly, when I made that mention of Stanford. But you know, I'm a simple country boy who went to a public school.
Well, of public schools, I think you chose a good one.
Well, it is. And David Robinson, whom you know is your club manager over at San Francisco Yacht Club, is on. He went to a public school. He went to a mining school. He went to Michigan Tech.
Oh, is that right?
Which also a famously good hockey school. Yes, the scarf really works. Gordon Smith, who's in Denmark. Yeah, okay. Husted says, I'm just about to get some sleep. He's in Sweden. Catch you guys on Friday. Thanks, Mark. It is Mardi Gras in New Orleans and beyond in the cities where you're celebrating Fat Tuesday, Lent, of course, tomorrow, Wednesday. And what is Mardi Gras? Well, most of you on here will know. It's French for Fat Tuesday. David, you speak French, right?
I used to, but I'm still conversational, I think.
You can probably tell us all of this in French. I won't. Festive Day celebrated in France on Shrove Tuesday, the Tuesday before Ash Wednesday, which marks the close of the pre-Lenten season, which really starts way back in January 6th for a lot of countries, a lot of cultures. The French name Mardi Gras means Fat Tuesday from the custom of using all the fats in the home before Lent in preparation for the fasting that is part of the abstinence of Lent. In the U.S., the principal Carnival celebration is in New Orleans, Louisiana. The carnival season there opens on the 12th night, January 6th, Epiphany, and climaxes with the Mardi Gras festivities commencing 10 days before, well, the last 10 days. And this period is filled with elaborate revelrous? Is that a word? David, is that a word?
It is. Celebratory?
Celebratory. That's why we have guys from Stanford here. Julia will be proud. Both day and night, building up to Mardi Gras and the Rex Parade. The Rex Parade, beads of yellow, gold, green, and purple are commonly, some people would say distributed, we'd say distributed, and the eating of king cake is an iconic part of the celebration. What, David, is king cake?
That I could not tell you.
Somebody on here will know. James Frederick Bland now we're back on Cantonese, composed of the Cantonese guai, meaning ghost, and lo, meaning man, chap, regular guy. Guai lo literally means ghost, devil man, and has been considered it's a mild pejorative, especially if it's prefaced by, look at J. Frederick Bland down in Texas, and looks like he's quite competent in Cantonese. How was that for alliteration, David? Competent in Cantonese.
Nicely done.
To say Guilo akin to damn foreigner. Okay, well, thanks. So many smart people on here. David Robinson talking about the Huskies, the Michigan Tech Huskies. I used to referee their hockey games. And we carry on talking about all things other than sailing, except now we get to the sailing because we're at the starting line. And thank you again to all of you for joining us. For what yesterday, our friend down in Australia said this is Levi's Day.
501.
The 501,
exactly
show
right.
number 501. That, of course, was Jody Shields. But I want to thank again, if you haven't seen last Friday's show, I commend it to you. Our Fozy Rodian Luca was on. He is Ukrainian. He's head of the Ukrainian Yachting Federation and also a developer of yachts, also a silver medalist in 2004, former 49er, world champion, European champion, and more. And it was great to have him on for his perspective of what's going on in Ukraine, as it's pronounced in many different languages. We see that the Aussies have pitched in as well. David, I think here in San Francisco, isn't the top of the Salesforce Tower?
It is commemorating it as well, as is City Hall.
City Hall is. Coit Tower?
That I don't know.
And of course, those of you who went to Michigan or Cal Berkeley, you guys don't like Cal Berkeley, but you even have a blue and yellow scarf on today, courtesy of Julia. She sent that specially to chime in with these colors. Of course, we're all standing steadfast in solidarity with Ukraine, and that's why I chose that blue and yellow rope for today's cover slide. Here's an update on this yacht we told you about on yesterday's special Monday show, the 500th. This we told you about Lady Anastasia, owned by apparently by Alexander Mikheyev from Ruski. He's a Russian, and we told you that the engineer, the Ukrainian engineer, had been working for him for 10 years, attempted to sink the yacht in Majorca over the weekend. We have an update, and here's the guy. Here's the engineer whose name. I'll tell you in a sec that the headline from the Majorca Daily Bulletin yesterday, Ukrainian yacht engineer returns home. First, he was being held by the Spanish authorities, but he's now let go so he can return home. He's accused of trying to sink that yacht where he worked. He tried to sink it in a revenge attack. His name is Taras Ostapchuk. Sorry, anybody who speaks Ukrainian or Russian, Slavic languages. Ostapchuk. I'm getting worse, not better. The Ukrainian engineer who allegedly tried to sink that Russian-owned yacht where he worked, he has left Majorca Sunday afternoon bound for Ukraine, where he intends to take up arms against the Russian invaders. According to an interview with our sister newspaper, Ultima Hora, the late hour, the last hour, which, as most of you will know, speak Spanish, he was arrested by the La Guardia Civil, but later released. Taras was so horrified by a missile attack on an apartment building in his home country by Russian forces that he attempted to sink the yacht, he said, Lady Anastasia, in Porto Adriano, which is there in Majorca, which is reputedly owned by a Russian arms dealer. He allegedly opened various valves aboard the yacht, which is valued at more than 7 million euros. The yacht suffered severe damage to its engine room. And I would say bravo Zulu to the guy, but the missile hit an apartment block very similar to the one where I live in Ukraine. That's a quote from him. He went on to say that after seeing this, he decided to take his revenge on the Russian owner of the vessel, where he has worked for the last 10 years. Later today, he'll board a flight for Poland and then make his way to Ukraine. What are the comments, David? Any comments on this one?
Well, we're getting some comments on Mandarin and Cantonese, which how to order beers, so that could come in handy later. And a request from Gordon Smith. Since we have 3 Danes on, maybe we'll do a special program on languages one of these days.
Well, we do, and it's one of the nice things about all the FOSI is that we do, between us, speak a number of languages. None well. I can get along in German and Spanish, mostly in Spanish, but you speak French, and Julia speaks a bit of French, and our guest today, we're going to get to him in a sec, Tom Hansen, who's down in Lauderdale, is Danish and was born in New York City, but both his parents are Danish, so we'll carry on maybe in a little Danish. This guy is a Ukrainian war hero, Alan Long is saying. John Emmett said it looks many sports are now banning Russian athletes. Well, let's get into that, because further to this guy, we told you also yesterday about this weak-ass warm piss World Sailing statement, the original statement that came out yesterday, the 28th. World Sailing is very concerned about the situation in Ukraine, and we are troubled about the safety of our friends in the Ukrainian sailing community. I mean, excuse me. They could have come out with a stronger statement than that even before they got guidance from the IOC. Sport can be a force for good. Okay, I'm not going to read it again because it was croutonic and it was just simply not correct. However, today I saw a statement from U.S. Sailing, which was quite a bit tougher, and then come to find out it's exactly the same statement that World Sailing has put out. And we asked you yesterday if this statement was correct or croutonic, and almost all of you said, yes, it is croutonic. Now, that's different from whether or not we should be banning sailors who are Russian or Belarusian. We'll talk about that some more, maybe. But today, this statement came out from World Sailing. World Sailing joined today the International Olympic Committee and global sports organizations in taking the decision to suspend participation of Russian and Belarusian athletes and officials in World Sailing owned and sanctioned competitions and events until further notice. Quote, by implementing these measures, World Sailing is supporting a united and coordinated approach within the global sports community, their CEO said. This decision is in line with the IOC Executive Board's recommendation aimed at preserving the integrity of competitions and ensuring the safety of all participants, which is an issue. I buy that. And has been unanimously agreed by the World Sailing Executive Board, who met today in virtually. They met online by presumably Zoom or web, one of those, but it doesn't matter. But also they had a meeting virtually with the president of the IOC, Thomas Bach from Germany, and apparently the IOC has taken, we told you yesterday, was in the process of taking this decision. So World Sailing then went along because they don't want to get crosswise with the IOC, and hopefully they also agree this is the right thing to have done. Now, does anybody want to comment on that before we carry on? Stingray, could be nice to see the Sail GP event coming March 26th in San Francisco flag a flag or two in support of Ukraine. Yeah, well, maybe. We'll see if don't they have an event, Stingray? Isn't there an event, David, for Sail GP in St. Petersburg, Russia? I think there. Maybe you can Google that and see if that's true. I think maybe one of our foes will know that. Blake Middleton says, I speak sailing and I'm fluent in alpine skiing as well. In any event, nice statement today by World Sailing. I think we all probably support this, and it begs the question after this statement now. And I'm a de Tocquevillian. I believe in decentralization. I'd rather see classes and clubs taking the decisions rather than national and international authorities telling their clubs and classes and people what to do. We talked yesterday briefly. We had Andrew McIrvin on, is one of the Zoomers. Andrew is skiing in France. He's got a few days off after a very busy month with RORC, IMA, International Maxi Association work. And he asked me to apologize to all of you. He tried to get back on, but the internet was weak in the hotel where he was staying in the Alpines, and I think the French Alps. But that begs the question now, what's going to happen to Comanche, Russian-owned, supposedly? Although, as Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin told me the other day, David, you will know these boats are all owned by corporations that are based in, tell me where, the Cayman Islands and Monaco and who knows where, and who actually owns the corporations then? Well, and it does beg the question, if they charter it to a non-Russian with a non-Russian crew, does the boat get excluded because of the ownership through a special purpose corporation? It's not entirely straightforward. Exactly right. And I know Mitch Booth had a few words with one of you that's on here watching today about whether or not it was fair there. He said there's even Mitch Booth, who's the Australian, who's the skipper these days of Comanche, and he said, we even have Ukrainian crew on this boat. So is it fair to all of us that are getting a paycheck from, we're not quite sure where? Well, they know where. There's a Russian owner, a Russian corp. And that's true. And it's more straightforward with something like the J70s or maybe the RC44s. But, who knows if one of the J70 owners is actually part of the Russian opposition now. Exactly. So that's why I don't think any centralized decisions are all that useful. It's much more better yet still if organizations like the IMA or the RORC or the New York Yacht Club or the San Francisco Yacht Club take the decisions, or Sail GP, or tell me who, the RC44 class, take the decision more, shall we say, locally. Same for the 52 series. They've got a Russian boat, this Russian owner, sails under the Russian flag, and I'd rather see those organizations taking the decision rather than being told from top down. There are races, famously good Russian races, that they're going to have to deal with all of this. And as John Emmett says, it's about the country representing the sailors on board. John, who's given us another report today, thank you for that. What other comments? Baton Rouge, that's Baton Kennon in Charleston, is saying king cake is a mix of coffee cake, and a cinnamon roll covered with icing sugar, familiar to French-speaking countries. Is that, David, what you know? King
Well,
cake.
I'm not going to argue with a baker, but it is nice to see Monica Diaz joining us from Spain.
So you're another one of these people that knows Monica Diaz. I mean, it's amazing. She's been on here. She's a Fozy. And I didn't know her, I don't think, till really getting to know her on the show. We actually talked by phone this morning, Monica and I did. And she's been a very useful source in Spain about what's going on with cup venues and so on. So Monica's on, and it's interesting. You know her as well. I know Dick Anderson and others of you on here know her. She's quite famously cool and good and a great sailor. Gordon Smith, I wonder what happens to vessels under construction. Well, that's an interesting question, and I can't remember. I apologize. One of you sent me this slide before the show that someone has already, various people are putting together these maps of the Russian yachts all around the world, the plutocrats, the billionaires, friends of Putin. And of course, that's the other thing is, as you say, who knows, David, who's anti and who's pro Putin.
Right, and there are a lot of oligarchs who are exiled to London. Should they fall within the exclusion or not? It gets confusing. Yeah. It is interesting to see CNBC said yesterday that a lot of those mega yachts you were referring to are headed for the Maldives, which has no extradition treaty with the United States.
Is that right? Well, as you would if you're trying to protect your yacht, you'd beat cheeks out of the Caribbean, I think.
Well, and I think it's good for us all to know that the Maldives have no extradition treaty, just in case.
Just in case. Julia would approve of that. Clever comment. Blake Middleton, in the past 6 years, I ran 6 regattas for the International Malgus 20 class. There have been a couple of very competitive Russian boats in the Malgus 20 class that have raced almost every event down in Florida in Coconut Grove. Gangstas, John Sangmeister said. John's had some very strong words. He thinks we should just go in and ban all of these croutons, including kids of these moguls, these Russian plutocrats who are here in the States. He thinks we should be sending them back from whence they came.
That gets to be a slippery slope with students, right? Are we going to send students back to China, send students back to Russia if they've got valid visas? I don't know.
Well, exactly. Good point. Okay, here we go. Let's get into our main segment today, and thanks for, again, to all of you who joined us yesterday. It was a marvelous show. It's had a lot of views. Julia was very pleased. I went upstairs and we played some of it last night to look at it. It was great fun, especially those that came on by Zoom and offered comments. Show number 501, however, today for Tuesday, bloody hell, the 1st of March, and we're delighted to have Tom Hansen with us as the executive director of Sail Last. He's standing by. We still have a connection, Tom, don't we?
We do. I'm here. Thanks for having me aboard.
Loud and clear. We'll get to you in a sec, and thank you very much for joining us. Tom is in Lauderdale, and he has started an organization about something we've been talking about on this show. David, you've seen it for years. We've been talking about how do we get young kids in big boats. And I know that's something you're doing as well. So it's nice that you're here. We know Sangmeister's doing it. We know that Steve Ernest is doing it. And we're going to talk about all that because we think that's great for our sport. And that's something that Tom Hansen is, and his mate, Chris Exley, who's a Fozy and has been following the show since forever. Chris Exley up in Boston has been doing as well. Now, I taped as an introduction to this segment we're going to do with Tom Hansen. I taped a segment with Chris Exley almost over a week ago, and then the war intervened, and Tom Hansen has very kindly agreed to wait until we got through these other segments and then the 500 show to appear live today. But let me run this introduction first that I taped with Chris Exley a week ago. Chris Exley in Boston, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tom. Pleasure to be here.
So tell us about this program that you've introduced us to. We're going to have Tom Hansen on the show soon, and he's running the program, a UConn alum, as I understand it. How'd you get involved with him?
So I got involved through a mutual friend who also belongs to Jubilee Yacht Club in Beverly, Massachusetts. So he's a mutual friend, and he introduced me to him. And I got into contact with him last year, and I participated in the Block Island Race Week with the program on the Henderson 30 that they have called Double Down. And we had 10 people on the boat. We had some three senior people, but the majority of the crew were these young people who are the entire focus of the program. The program is intended to bridge young people from dinghy sailing into keelboat sailing. And so they have a Henderson 30, which is the primary boat that they use for the program right now.
Is that the boat there? Is that Block Island in the boat?
That's the very boat, and I'm on the back steering.
Nice.
Yeah, we had a fun time down there. That's the Around the Island race, which was on the Thursday of the week, and it was champagne conditions, just a beautiful day. And we raced right around the island. It was a fantastic spectacle to see 165 boats going all in the same direction.
Okay, well, let's back up a notch and first of all talk about your club, then go back and talk about Block Island for those outside the U.S. who don't know that Block Island is off Rhode Island's south coast there in Rhode Island Sound, but Block Island Sound for that matter. So you're from Boston. Did you grow up in Boston, Chris?
I did not. I grew up in Delaware.
So in Biden country.
Yes, I did, and I met him in person years ago when I was in college.
The president or his Croutonic son?
He was a senator at the time.
Nice. So you're a Delaware boy. Did you sail growing up in Delaware?
Not very much, just a little bit on sailfish and dinghies in summers when I was very young. I got into sailing when my future wife and I moved to Charlottesville, Virginia. She went into grad school, and her grad school advisor had a boat down on the Rappahannock River where it empties into the Chesapeake Bay. And we would go down there 3 or 4 times each summer, and each summer there was one race that they held, and that kind of piqued my interest in racing. Then when we were finished with our time in Charlottesville, we moved up to the Boston area. And I quickly developed an interest in racing up here. And so a mutual friend at work got me into sailing on Thursday nights at Jubilee Yacht Club in Beverly, which is north of Boston. It's just north of Salem, Massachusetts.
Yeah, I mean, there's couple of other really cool and famous yacht clubs up there in Marblehead, right? You're all in the same area.
Right. There's 3 very well-known yacht clubs in Marblehead: Boston Yacht Club, Corinthian Yacht Club, and Eastern Yacht Club. And Jubilee is just around the corner in Beverly on Salem Sound. So I've been racing Thursdays there for 30 years now, and plenty of weekend races as well, and some distance races. There's a race called the Behringer that I've done several times that is down to, from Marblehead down to Provincetown and back.
And Provincetown is right out on the end of Cape Cod. That's the tail of Cape Cod curls around. P-Town's right out there at the end. You can take a ferry down from Boston.
That's right. It's at the very tip of Cape Cod.
And it's just that whole area. And of course, New York Yacht Club loves to have their cruise up in that area or up to Maine or up in Maine. And it's just a great sailing and cruising area between where you are, north of Boston, all the way down and around through Long Island Sound and so on. And partway when you get down there, outside of Rhode Island, out in Rhode Island Sound or Block Island Sound, is this island, Block Island. That's where correct. You've been campaigning this Henderson 30. And it's something we've talked a lot about on this show, which is getting kids, young kids, onto big boats at an earlier age than, 30s or 40s, right when they're teens. And you're doing this successfully.
Very successfully. In fact, 2 of the people who joined the crew were Tom Hansen's 2 children, Lexi and Tor, and they did the runners and the main respectively. They were at the time they were 11 and 12 years old, and they held their jobs down very well. They did incredibly well in those rolls on the boat. They were rock solid. I didn't even have to think about it.
Well, you've
So-
introduced us to Tom. Tom and I are in touch by email, and he's going to come on the show soon. We hope in the next week or so, and introduce this program. Tell us again about, it's a 501c3 called Sail Last, Help First, Sail Last, and the last stands for Lead, Advance, Strengthen, and Teamwork, and it's putting kids into offshore boats at a young age. Is that about it?
That's the whole point. That really sums it up.
Do you see it going on in other clubs and other places in the country?
He wants to expand it. He has a presence in Connecticut, in Stamford, and in the summertime he brings the Henderson 30 up to this area to race up here, because there's some good events going on up here, and there's a lot of interested kids up here. So he brings it up and down the East Coast, and he wants to expand the number of boats and also the number of locations where they run the program.
Terrific.
But he'll tell you an awful lot more about that, I'm sure, himself.
Terrific. I appreciate your introducing him and the topic to us, Chris, and I shall look forward to having him on the show soon.
Thanks very much, Tom. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Likewise. Thank you. Thank you, Chris Exley, who's on here, I hope watching, is a FOSI, is really pushed this and said, you got to talk about this because I know we've been talking on it here, and delighted to have that introduction from our friend Chris, actually in Boston. Now, Tomas, let's come to you. And you are standing by in Fort Lauderdale very patiently to tell us about Sail Last. Welcome again.
Thanks very much, Tom. Hi, David. Sail Last is a 501c3. We're a charitable organization, and our mission is very clear. We use STEM and sailing, specifically racing big boats and keel boats, to grow kids from dinghies to big boats.
Shall I run this video? Why don't I run this video in background and you do voiceover this video, which is kind of a cool video of something you did in 2018. I guess was the start of this program, doing the Block Island race, which for those of you who don't know, Block Island Race Week, and this was the Around Block race, Block Island being that cool island off the south coast, as we said with Chris Exley, of Rhode Island and, Block Island Sound.
That's right. So in 18, we came out and we were lucky enough to work with Judge Smith and race his Taylor 42. For the first major regatta, we decided that we would do cruising class. We had over 50% of the crew were youth. I think our youngest was 8 years old, and we won the entire regatta. And it was an excellent experience, and we forged at least 4 or 5 youth sailors, keelboat sailors.
And how often have you done this since 2018?
We do Block Island Race Week every time it comes up. So we won 2018 with youth. We won 2019 with youth. The pandemic got in the way and it wasn't competed in 20. And then we brought out Double Down, our Henderson 30, also with primarily young crew with URI and UConn students. And we really found every possible spot we could improve the Double Down youth program. And so we're looking forward to coming back again this year to Block Island with the same crew as we ran with last year.
Okay, now let's pull out of that video. And when you say URI, now remember, we got a lot of people on here who are not, in fact, the majority of people watching are non-Americans. URI, University of Rhode Island, a great collegiate sailing program there in kind of central southwestern Rhode Island. And then you say UConn, it's a University of Connecticut at Storrs, Connecticut. Is that right?
That's right. UConn is my alma mater. And when I was racing at UConn, we really didn't have any boats. We did primarily lake sailing. While I was there, I was able to work with Avery Point and get us access to some saltwater sailing. And we really didn't have any kind of keelboat activity. so once I graduated from University of Connecticut, I made a commitment that I would circle back with keel boats for their program.
You're a young guy. It's, this isn't like you're in retirement. You must be doing this in part as a job, as a vocation, as opposed to an avocation. What got you started doing this?
I spent 25 years working for my companies for the Department of Defense. And I came back in 2016, and we all decided it was time to switch some gears. And so instead of me committing myself full-time to my defense companies, I'm committed full-time to Sail Last, to give back.
Great. Terrific. UConn, I'll just briefly tell you, because with David Robinson, who's another hockey fan, a lot of hockey fans on here, well, I didn't normally do Div 2, Div 3, Division 2 or 3 hockey. I was refereeing Div 1 hockey, but they called me up one night and said, hey, would you go over to Stores and referee a hockey game, which was a playoff game between UConn and Williams, I think. And it was in a total snowstorm. At a drive from Newport, I was living in Newport, Rhode Island, drove over to Stores. Long story short, I get there, I'm refereeing the game, and this guy behind me says, ref, that was a terrible call. And I recognized his voice. And it was the late, great Arthur Santry, past Commodore, or then the Vice Commodore. I think he was Rear Commodore, Vice Commodore, New York Yacht Club. I knew him well. And then it was all fun and games after that. But outdoors, do you have an indoor rink there now?
Yeah, they finally enclosed that after I took off.
After I stopped refereeing outdoors there in a snowstorm, and the Commodore, past Commodore, whatever he was, Rear Commodore, I think at the time, maybe Vice, Arthur Santry. Well, they're all great sailors too, and UConn a great school. It's nice to hear your story. Shall we go through some of these slides now?
That's a great idea.
Okay, so tell us, where are these slides that you sent us? Where are they taken, and what's going on?
That's 2018 there. You can see we have some young ones. The fellow in the orange shades, that's my son, Victor. He was 10 years old, I think, then, doing the main. And then we had Nicolas, who is just an associate of the club, someone who wanted to investigate keelboat sailing, and young fellow there. I think he was 11 or 12. And then fellows on the port side there. One is my father, who's an accomplished Danish sailor, very much retired now. And then there's Fernando there. You can just see his back. And so we're on a dead down. The Taylor 42 likes to go straight down the hill. So that's an excellent regatta for everyone involved.
Are these kids mostly sailors who you've recruited into big boat sailing, or are any of them non-sailors that you say, hey, you ought to come out and try this?
Most of them are non-sailors.
Really?
Most of them are either from the local elementary school where they've heard about it, it's very exciting, but they're not sure. And our only requirement is that they're able to swim. And of course, there's never any kind of membership fee or cost to anyone at Sail Last. So we get them out and we try to make sure that they're not affected by seasickness, and that they're good listeners, and that they're interested in it. And we're very fortunate that I would say 8 out of 10 of the young people that we get out on one of our programs wants to come back again. And that's really the test for us. If on the out brief, if these kids want to go again, then it's a good ride.
Hey, that's a good point. And look at these comments. You're getting a tremendous amount of positive comments already. Matthias Collins wants to know, where is the club located? Is there a good crane at the club?
So there is a club on Block Island. There is no crane specifically. One of the things that we also do is we focus primarily on trailer sailors, so the cost of the operation is down. And believe it or not, so the Henderson 30 has a 7-foot draft with a retractable keel, a drop keel, and we're able to ramp launch that boat. We step the mast with kids in the lot, and we ramp launch that boat and recover it the same way.
Magnus Wheatley, who, I don't know if you know Magnus or know of him. He's our longtime friend, Magnus the Magnificent, I call him. Fantastic initiative, and wonderful to see pathways into big boat sailing being forged. so vital to the future of our sport at club and national level. Brilliant. He's a Brit, of course, and the proprietor and the writer, David, as you know, of the Rule 69 blog.
Which is the first thing I read every morning. And if I can just interject for a moment, I'd like to say this is a pet peeve of mine for so long, and I'm so happy to see you doing this program, uh, both competitively, like at Block Island, as well as more recreationally. I have kids who have done junior sailing and now high school sailing, and it's nothing but one windward lured after another.
Practice starts, windward lured,
In
pump, rock.
Opties and FJs. And I have these high school and college kids come on the boat, and they know how to roll tack. But if I ask for a jibe set, they look at me as if I'm speaking Aramaic. So I think this is just wonderful to see. I'm a
Totally agree.
huge supporter.
Totally agree. Take us through some more of these photos.
So this is just a couple weeks ago. That's the Henderson 30. And you can see on the back there, that's Tom Lee. He was kind enough to take the helm for the program. And then forward to Tom, you have Victor Storben, who's the main sheet trimmer, 12 years old. Alexandra Storben is runners, backstay, and sewer. I'm the next guy there. I'm operating basically as a bosun, trying to orchestrate the crew. And then also because of a knee injury, I was focused on simply the tack line. You know, the Henderson 30 has an articulating, retractable bow pole. And so it's very stringy, the boat, with all the runners and all of the pole controls. There are infinite ways to configure the boat. So we're very focused. And then we have an excellent sailor just forward of me, Addison Harper. Then we have two of the greatest Yukon sailors, actually three of them, Maxwell. We have Jonathan Denman, and we have William Gasparini.
You say Yukon, so these are grads, alums, or current racers on the Yukon team? University of Connecticut?
That's right. These are students. Maxwell graduated just last year, and so he's been part of our program since the early days. So we allow him to come back on and share his knowledge with the youth. And then way up on the bow, we have a young fellow operating mast, Bergen, 13 years old.
And as David was just saying, so many people don't have this opportunity until they're maybe in their 30s or 40s to learn about this stuff, if they're dinghy sailors, let alone somebody like my daughter, who didn't really even sail much as a kid because we were living in Europe, not close to clubs or junior sailing programs, and she preferred soccer and basketball. Gordon Smith is saying, loved my introduction to keelboats as a 12-year-old. Even better if you get to do some fishing at the same time. Gordon, thank you for coming on yesterday's Zoom. He was one of the Zoomers on yesterday's show number 500. Steve Atkins, who is the past commodore of a club in Connecticut, the Madison Beach Club. Tom Lee, who you're talking about, Tom Lee here in that photo driving. And Tom Lee owns a Gunboat 55, Jammy, home-based in Block Island. Krasimir Naumov, who's in Bulgaria. Hi, all. I got into keels around age 12. It is great for dinghy sailors to experience keelboats, too, as it sets a different perspective in full in racing. Yeah, that there's a lot of different racing that goes on. Cool stuff. Tom Lee and you, is Exley in any of these photos?
Exley is not in these photos. The 2018 event and the most recent event were selected for this.
Well, actually, we gave him 5 minutes of airtime at the top, so we all know who he is. Cool guy that he is. Who are these kids?
So there you have. This is between races where the kids take over the boat. So you have Bergen there all the way on the stern, steering. And then you've got my son Victor, who's on the main. He's been doing that for years. And then Lexi is runner's backstay and sewer. And she's also apprenticing bow.
Tjeerd de Jong, who I think is in the Netherlands. Tjeerd, remind me where you are. Some 50 years ago, my sailing club, it is in Holland, had a program with a sailing club in I used to be able to say it, Woerden, where youth could rent for a couple of dollars one of their 4 folk boats. You have to be careful how you say that. We have folk boats here in the bay. Folk boats to introduce us. Thanks, Tier.
And Jody said, did they learn how to drink a beer while trimming the spinnaker? We learned to do this as 12-year-olds in Wanky, but that raised a question for me. At Block Island, you can't take the kids to the oar for a mudslide, so what do you do with them?
What do you do with them at night?
Well, the kids generally are exhausted, so that makes everything a little bit easier. But you're right, we can't take them to the tent, and we can't take them, out to Yellow Kittens. So for the most part, they end up doing a lot of stuff on their own, which is very safe at that location. One of the older collegiates will go along with them. They'll go get ice cream, maybe some pizza, while the rest of us, hit the tents and make sure that everyone knows we're there and try to get some free advice, which Tom Lee has been instrumental in helping us, ramp up. So, and the other thing you should know about Sail Last is that all of our boats are dry boats. Like I famously try to explain to some people who don't like that idea, we're helping them learn sailing, not drinking.
Oh, dry meaning alcohol. I thought you meant dry meaning high topsides or freeboards. Okay. You see this comment from Wingrove? You want to do that one, David?
Yeah, we've had a series of young sailors on the J35 rocket that I steer. Some children of crew and also youth sailors from the club program. It is cool to have them in the mix with the old folks.
Indeed, and I don't know about you guys, but I grew up, as some of you know, Clark Chapin, who's on here, is my home little club in Michigan, and we grew up not sailing. Okay, we had some little dinghies that we sailed. We hated those boats. We sailed with our parents and our grandparents even in the big boats. And then as soon as we could hoist the main, I mean, as a 9-year-old, it's tough to hoist the sail on some of these boats, the mainsail even. As soon as we were 9 or 10, it's not like you're in San Francisco Bay where you can get into trouble or big open water, but the worst thing you can do is sail up onto somebody's front dock in front of their cottage at the lake. But as soon as we could hoist the sails, which is how I ended up sailing a Flying Scot, because it had that crank system or like a thistle, and I could get the main up and sail around as a 9, 10-year-old in the Flying Squatini. But we sailed with adults, and I learned way more sailing around with my parents and grandparents and other adult friends than I did with our junior sailing instructor.
Well, preparing for this, I came across a photograph with Conrad, Julia's late husband, when I'm 8 years old during the Santa Barbara race, and Conrad is down below teaching me how to triangulate with an RDF because
Really?
This was pre-Loran.
This is her late great seafaring ship, German ship captain, and you're a longtime family friend, which is one of the reasons we ended up with David filling in for Julia. Thank you again, David. Maura Stevens has commented, and Maura's up in Canada. She's saying, we have always sailed dry, and we have refreshments once we are at the dock or on the mooring. David, were you dry with Conrad? I find that hard to believe.
We were not a dry boat.
Conrad
my father would not have tolerated that.
Conrad liked to have a cocktail or two. John Emmett is saying most European sailors start an optimist, and this may be part of the issue holding back U.S. sailing. Quality of coaching is, of course, yeah, John, good point, another issue. Wow, there is a somebody has just spammed us big time. How I got cured from the herpes simplex virus. Well, that's what happens when you get popular and they see how many views we're getting. They go looking online, especially on YouTube.
And that might be useful information for some of our foes, but I've blocked the person anyway.
Thank you, David. David's very good. How about this? This is a J70, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the first time that we've run multiple boats in a major event. So this is the Helly Hansen Sailing World, formerly known as Nude, and that's Tampa Bay. And we ran a crew of 5 all-female team members. So that's a sail last aft. And we coordinated with Sail 22, Ed Fury, and with Willem Van Way from Van Way Sailing, both some powerful people, in the sailing world, and we're really grateful to have been able to help out a little bit with what they were doing. They introduced the first Mix Plus program into a major, in this case, the J7 class, and so we had an excellent showing where 17, I believe, of the 31 boats in the J70 class were Mixed Plus, meaning 50% or more female. And to show our support, Sarah, my wife, and I decided we were going to put forward an all-female sailing team to race as a sail last vessel. We didn't go out to win. We went out to share the sport. Of the 5 ladies on that boat, only 2 of them have a substantial amount of experience. So 3 of the other sailors really came up to speed through that experience. And of course, we're fortunate everybody had a great time and there were no injuries.
No, I just put up, and David's put, and that's to get rid of that crutonic comment that was up at the top of our list, so it goes off when I show them here on the screen. Alan Long is saying we have 3 high school hockey kids that race with us on the J111 out of Mentor Harbor, I assume that's Mentor Harbor Yacht Club in Cleveland, in Ohio. Mentor Harbor is a terrific club over there on the east side of Cleveland, where we've raced any number of times, having grown up in the Great Lakes. Stingray is asking, nude. Julia loved the idea that we had a regatta in this sport called the Nude Regatta, and now it's no longer. Tell us about nude. Tomas?
It's a national offshore one design, and I'm not sure why it was changed. It used to be so much fun to explain to non-sailors that we were sailing in the nude.
Well, the reason is that Sailing World, which started those regattas, 25, 30 years ago, Helly Hansen has been sponsoring them. It's the Helly Hansen Sailing World regattas. Now they are at different, clubs, big sailing areas around the country. And they're including things other than the National Offshore One designs, is I think the reason they changed the name. There's sailing other one designs that are not offshore boats and so on, but a great initiative.
ORC.
Say again?
And ORC boats, so that now it's no longer one design.
Exactly.
So it makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. What other, Bill Wingrove, St. Pete Yacht Club is used sailing in their J70 fleet. One of the guys from the Rocket qualified to helm one of the boats in the J70 Winter Series out of Davis Island Yacht Club. Ken Saban is asking you, Tom, how is your knee?
It's doing all right, Ken. Thanks for your concern. I'll be having surgery in a couple weeks.
Matthias Collins is saying in San Diego, it's coming the not so nude. What's that mean? Krasimir, we are making all ladies regattas this year, and we will introduce a junior female crew of dinghy sailors trained by seniors in quarter tonners. Nice stuff. Let's, Tom, ask you, what about kids? You got white kids, men and girls and boys, men and women. How are you doing with Latinos, with Asian kids, with African-American kids into this program? Any luck with that?
We are having a lot of luck with that. We have several kids that are English as a second language involved, Caribbean, South American. And what we're finding is that the deeper we dig and the more diverse that these youngsters enter into the program, the stronger the sport will become. We need more diversity, and we need to start them out as young as they want. We're not taking anyone away from a dinghy. Dinghies are very important, but we're finding what I found, and all of my associates coming up also racing big boats, is that every once in a while it's really hard to find crew because a lot of these boats are sitting idle most of the time instead of racing all the time.
Boy, isn't that the truth? A couple other comments. Bill Wingrove, many of the nudes have PHRF and ORC, et cetera, instead of Pier 1 designs to increase the numbers. Yes, that's what we were saying. And as things have changed in our sport, numbers have gone down. Pedro Foiling Sailor, a.k.a. Peter Stevenson, down in Sydney. It's important for the skipper teaching kids to sail to explain when he yells at the crew, he's not angry. He just wants to make sure he is heard the first time over the noise of the wind and waves. Females don't yell. Everyone listens to them. Oh, my goodness. What else? David, what do you think of this?
Well, Russell Coots used to say, I'm the only one who's allowed to yell on this boat, and I don't yell.
That's right. I don't know a good sailor. I didn't sail. I don't think I ever sailed with Tom Blackhauler. I'm trying to think if I did. Dennis Conner never yells. Bus Mossbacker never yelled. Ted Turner yelled like crazy, but he was a one of a kind, and everybody just turned him off.
There are some yellers, even at the top end of the sport. but they are few and far between.
Precious few, right? Is that your experience as well, Tom?
Yeah, we don't yell on our boats, and everyone is in briefed very carefully to understand that if the volume goes up, it's to be heard over the wind, and there really you can't make mistakes on our boats. We're really not out there to win. The fact that we do win, I think, has a lot to do with some of the senior sailors that are volunteers. It's an all volunteer organization that is completely funded solely through contributions, outside contributions. So yeah, so everyone is aware. They know what their job is. They know they've been in briefed, and on shore we talk about the different parts and the language that, the new lingo that they need to learn and the position. And then we just go and we do it. And I've noticed that it takes a couple mistakes to get it right. Yes. And I think that's how I started when I was 5, and I'm still learning,
Exactly. And you've just raised, David, an example of somebody who's a shouter who's a superb sailor, but very difficult to sail with.
Oh, of Chris Dixon. My experience was he screamed a lot. And Steve Adkins said that Tom Whidden was a legendary screamer.
Well, he shouted. I wouldn't say he was a screamer. I've sailed with Tom a little bit. Matthias Collins says, I used to yell. No one used to listen. Now things improved. No one yells. No one listens. Wingrove, yelling can be a factor of crew response and or situation. Yeah, exactly. You want to save the yell for when there's a safety issue, when there really is a problem. Hey,
Exactly. When you need to get somebody's attention if you're inadvertent jibe or what have you. But Jody Shields says he doesn't yell while we sail, but he does shout a lot at the bar.
Jody is hilarious. Well, it's interesting how the Fozy and smart people, we get off on tangents in these shows, having no idea we're going to talk about yelling. But I want to ask you one more thing. Are there sports that kids come out of that are maybe non-sailors or casual sailors? Are there any sports where kids come out of and really glom on to sailing? There was a comment here from somebody up in Alan Long, I think it was. Was it Alan Long? I think it was Alan Long who said hockey players. And I know from personal experience, I used to take kids out with me in the Flying Scot or the Lightning or the Sun, whatever. And the hockey player kids, I don't know if it's because they're fearless or they're strong or what. Maybe they're stupid. Maybe they've been hit in the head too many times or they didn't wear a cup enough. I don't know what it was. But hockey players seem to get into the boat, and you look at all these, Blake Middleton will vouch for me, all these people up in Wisconsin, Minnesota who are hockey players, David Robinson will agree, who just happy to hop in the boat, learn from somebody like you or a good coach, and then very quickly get into the sport. Are there other sports like that, or am I just smoking something here?
I'm not sure exactly. I know that I used to be a high school and collegiate hockey player.
Did you play at UConn?
I did, but only on the club team.
So I never refereed your games.
No.
You'd probably remember. You say, "Oh, that terrible referee." Were you a shouter? Did you abuse the refs?
Never the refs, just the opposition. But there's something to it because it's a large team. Communication is essential, and a level of physical fitness, it really improves your competitive situation. So I think hockey is one of them. We see kids coming from all sorts of different. We see swimmers because they're great at swimming. They're not afraid of the water. We see gymnastics, kids that like to do gymnastics. And so I think sailing is one of these things that some people, if they're exposed to it, really, really want to develop it further. And we're trying to find those kids. So there's a new generation of sailors, keelboat sailors coming on board.
David, you want to read Ed Worley's comment here?
Sure. I think it's important to have the new crew understand they need to be observant to what everyone does and pay attention and learn.
Yeah, I think being observant. You talk to great sailors, whether it's Dennis or Buddy or Russell or you name it, Tommy Slingsby. These people can tell you not only about what happened out there on the race course just now, they can tell you what happened out on the race course last week, last month, last year with great, really. And they're not only very observant, but they have superb memories. And I have always, Tom and David, I've always thought that it was not, the cause and effect is an interesting thing. I think that sailing makes you more observant. Good sailors are naturally observant. as Buddy always said, Buddy Melgus, get your head out of your cockpit. He meant get your head out of your ass and get up and look up the track. Stop watching what's going on in the boat. You have to be automatic in the boat. But I think sailing then makes you more observant. Talking about drivers, I don't know any bad drivers who are sailors. I'm talking about car drivers. They're pretty good at getting in a car and, not getting into accidents. They can get in and out of close situations. I think it's from sailing and being used in a vessel, in a vehicle that does not have brakes. So you have to anticipate in a boat. You have to be able to get out of a tight situation.
Well, and a lot of it's situational awareness and having your head out of the boat, and you learn that in dinghies. I mean, if you're worried about boat handling, you're not getting around the track very fast.
Absolutely right. Tom, are we talking BS here?
No, I think you guys are right. And I've heard it many, many times from some remarkably accomplished sailors. Bump Wilcox out of Marblehead, he used to he taught us a couple things. He said, the first thing the crew needs to know is that I'm only asking for one race at a time. But when we're racing, you're completely focused on racing. Don't want to hear about anything on land. Don't want to hear about tomorrow or yesterday. Let's focus on racing the whole time. So focus is mission essential. And that really applies to any vocation, right? You need to be in the moment and participate. And then the other thing that Bump shared with us, and I think it was through a post or something, but he made it very clear that some of the greatest sailors are able to monitor incredibly complicated multivariable situations. And so Bump would say, well, I can basically track 5 things at one time, but the world champions, they can track 15, 20 different variables at the same time. And that's the difference.
I think that is, look at these comments. Blake Middleton, a racing sailor friend who testified in a court case about a major accident, was qualified as an expert simply because his observational skills were so well developed. Ryman says, Ted, who's a motorcyclist down in Cape Town, so motorcyclists make good sailors. Alan Long made the comment about peripheral vision, and I think that is true. Just what you said so well, Tom Hansen, just now, is I think key to being a good sailor. And again, I think the cause and effect is, and it's one of the reasons we should get kids into sailing, is that it's not just that good sailors have all of these skills, is that you develop them. When you go yacht racing, you go sailing. I know on our boat, it's okay. The 50-footer that I campaign with the guys down in Newport at Balboa Yacht Club in Newport Beach, when we're sailing, and there's a lot of happy, horse, what that goes on and low key moments. But everybody is focused and sailing, just as you say. And we get back to the dock and we'll have a pop or two and go to the bar and have a blast. But when we're sailing, and everybody on that boat who's good is well aware of what's going on. The wind on the water, the trim of the sails, what's going on in the back end of the boat, what's going on the bow of the boat, have to also focus on what you're supposed to do and know that you should not pay, don't do somebody else's job, do your job first and well. So it's that also back and forth, right?
Well, and on a really high-performing team, the bow guy could be a tactician on any other boat, right?
Exactly
because
right.
That means he can look up the track and say, you know what, there's a 60% chance this is going to be a jibe set.
And Gordon, exactly right. And Gordon Smith saying, replying to Bill Wingrove, I was taught to drive by being instructed. Imagine you have really poor brakes. I was told to put an egg between your drive as if you had an egg between your foot and the accelerator for gas mileage, and also not getting yourself into big difficult situations. Tier de Jong, who is Dutch but living in California, or at least he is in California. Italians are good sailors because of their city traffic and driving. Ed Worley, I earned my spot in the cockpit from the foredeck crew by learning what everyone did in the back of the boat, watched, and learned what they did. So true, and that's the other thing. It's hard to go to school someplace or go to a class or take an online class to become a good offshore sailor. It's an apprenticeship, isn't it?
Absolutely. You start in the sewer and work your way up, and then
you start bringing sandwiches up from the cooler.
And if you show up on the dock with a 6-pack of beer on a Friday night, you'll get your first chance at it.
Is that all true, Tom?
Absolutely. Sailing is all about opportunity and time served, hard work.
Okay, let's look.
Also,
go ahead.
I just wanted to say also effective communication and leadership and teamwork. These are key to any business also, in addition. So the skills that we learn on the water can directly apply to shore-based vocations. And of course, science, technology, engineering, and math are very important.
And again, I think that's why you see so many businessmen and women who are so keen on the sport and vice versa. And maybe you learn to be a better business person, especially as a young person in the sport, because of the team play, because of all the strategy and the goals.
Well, and it works both ways. I mean, you see guys like Philippe Kahn, who are very successful business people, go into sailing in middle age because it is the most complex sport. It's the one that rewards the kind of organizational behavior and strategy and tactics and things that are good in business.
Larry Ellison, the late, I mean, we could go all over the world and point to these guys, Aussies, Kiwis. Larry Ellison is just another middle age. Well, he started kind of in his 20s, but he
with the Lido one.
Yeah, but he's still. And you can go on and on, the late great Jim Kilroy and so on and so forth.
Well, speaking of teamwork, Matthias Collins puts in a vote for rugby players.
I saw that in his comment.
And I would put in a vote for, especially post-college, for people who rowed crew, because they are incredible athletes with incredible discipline, teamwork if you're rowing in a big scull, commitment. And my experience has been, especially to start them out as grinders, a kid who just finished college and there's no recreational crew really. Sailing's a perfect sport for them.
Well, exactly. And you think of all the, particularly Kiwis, but some here in this, the late great Con Finley, who was a rower, double Olympic medalist, and then crewed for Dennis in the Tempest in '76, and he was a grinder. And think of the Kiwi rowers now that have become grinders, and others that are just good sailors.
Well, on the 12s, almost all the grinders were ex-rowers, because it's one of those sports where you need endurance and strength. There aren't very many.
Couple of other comments. Alex Kent, focus on only racing during the race. Focus on your job. Observe 15 variables at the same time. Get your head out of the cockpit. Racing is an apprenticeship, effective communication, teamwork, leadership at the helm on down. Alex, a nice summary of what's going on here. Ed Worley has a question. Do you have the kids help set up the boat and the equipment before going out? Tomas.
Yes, absolutely. The crew's involved. When we have crew flying in, like for example, for St. Petersburg, we had a lot of New England crew coming in, and they were all invited a week in advance. We had the crew housing, everything set up to accommodate, and the whole purpose is so that they can participate in safely building the boat, getting the masts up, rigging, de-rigging. In fact, the J70, our teams had to move the boat, actually deliver the boat from Davis Island. So we're involved in every aspect, including shutdown, cranking the keel up, getting the boat safely with a crane at St. Pete onto the trailer, and shutting the boat all the way down so that it's road ready again. So it's all part of the sport. There are no rock stars at Sail Left.
If you're wondering what's going on here, if you're just joining us, we're about an hour and 8 minutes into the show, our regular Tuesday and Friday show. Yes, we had a special 500th show yesterday because Julia was not able to be with us yesterday, or would not be with us today if we did show 500 today. So we did a special one yesterday on Monday. She's fine. She's having a procedure as we speak. She's just gone to the hospital this morning, being there for a few days, and we're joined in her place. David James, a longtime friend of Julia's as well, has come from across the bay over in Sausalito, member of San Francisco Yacht Club, as well as St. Francis, as well as Royal Hong Kong. David, thank you very much for joining us. And our guest today live via Skype from Fort Lauderdale in Florida. Everybody knows where Lauderdale is, right? Some people in the powerboating business, Thomas, call it Fort Lickerdale, right?
We sure do, and it's about to get crazy with spring break. We're back in business here.
The kids are coming down, and COVID is gone, and who knows? Hey, tell us now, to wrap this up, the Worth Monroe, is that a name of a regatta?
Yep, that is one of the SORC events, 2021 Worth Monroe. We participated in that one with the Henderson 30 and a junior crew. There you can see from left to right, Addison and some of the others. That's a video playing. We won that one on the sprint course, which I think everyone was surprised by. And you can see some of our crew there. Seth on the right, Mackenzie. Mackenzie is a U.S. sailing instructor trainer, and also the captain of our all-female teams. And this is just we're in sequence here for the start. And it was an interesting race, somewhat of an offshore haul from Fort Lauderdale to Palm Beach, a series of tacks that we did. So we got lots of practice. The crew got lots of tacking in. And we had a good time. 8 hours offshore. It's a long day in the sun, but we had beautiful weather, as you can see.
So you're not only training kids and developing good young sailors, you're also winning regattas.
Yeah, we've been fortunate.
Wrap it up for us. Take us home with this segment. And how can people contribute? How can people get in touch with you if they want to do this or similar at their home clubs?
So we're always available. As you know, I'm full-time on this, and I can be reached by email, tom@saillast.com. Our website is always open, and if anyone would like to make a deductible charitable donation, we would so very much appreciate it. That can be done through our website. I'm open if somebody would like to talk about developing their own program or volunteering to be part of our program. We're looking for shore team. We're looking for on the water people with sailing experience. We're looking for kids that are interested, that don't know that we're here. And what I'd really like to do is I'd like to recognize we have 6 key partners, and they're very important to us. Black Rock Boat Works out of New England Ropes, Occam Instruments, Bill Finizzo and his team have been awesome, providing us with lots of assistance and information and instruments. And Current Composites, specialty materials out of Connecticut. And then Pro Covers. And these are organizations that are directly supporting what we're doing, and we're so very grateful.
Would you welcome other corporates? You said individuals can make a tax-deductible charitable contribution to Sail Last, which is a 501c3, saillast.com, but corporate sponsors as well are welcome?
Yes. In fact, we're constantly trying to develop new corporate sponsorship partners. As you guys know, and everybody that's watching with us knows, that these boats don't heal themselves, and sails need to be mended, and maintenance is everything. And the boats, they take a lot of feeding. And so if we could find some more corporate sponsors, every one of our sponsors is also recognized on the vessel. So our boom is full of logos, and they're recognized and promoted at every turn. We have almost 10,000 individuals worldwide on our direct mailing list, on our email list. We've got 3,000, I think, on social media, and we're growing. The number of kids in the program is approaching 100, and it seems like we produce between 2 and 4 dozen competent junior keelboat sailors a year, and we're looking to double that. We're also interested in vessel donations. I mean, if somebody has a Henderson 30 out there that needs some TLC and they'd like to donate it, that's a perfect position for us. All of our vessels are donated, and any type of equipment like that. And we're also in the process of building out our J70 program as a smaller keelboat, and then Melges 24 for more of a sport boat, but not quite as onerous as the Henderson 30.
Terrific stuff. David, any final thoughts or questions?
No, I just want to reiterate how supportive I am of this, and how important I think it is to have a mixture of young and old, and boys and girls, and expose them to the teamwork and keelboat racing before they just burn out on doing another roll tack.
Well said. Tom, over to you. Last thoughts.
I'm very grateful that you guys could take the time this afternoon to have me aboard, and I really appreciate everyone that's been viewing, and I'll continue to promote the show, and I'm looking forward to maybe another time I can be on and let you know what kind of great things we're doing in the coming weeks and months.
You bet. And you say hi to Exley for us. I hope he's still on watching. Monica Diaz is saying she's giving you applause. I mean, I can turn on the applause here. Alan Long, how does he choose which crews sail what? There's a question.
Well, it's all based on fitness, really. I mean, we take very young kids that don't have any experience, but then we match them up with another kid that has more experience in that position. So when you look at these photos of the Henderson 30, the helm is an accomplished sailor, totally knows what they're up against and what they're in for, whether it's Mackenzie McGuckin on the all-female team or say Tom Lee on the Henderson 30. Accomplished sailors know what they're doing. They can see everybody else on the boat. We have multiple bow personnel, multiple mast personnel, and multiple people on trim that are working, a junior, a less skilled with a more skilled. And that's how we're able to bring totally inexperienced onto a boat and have it be constructive and everyone have a good time.
I'm smirking because we got another crouton. You're a very popular segment today, so we got Sandra or somebody coming on here. Thank you. Live from Lauderdale via Skype, Tom Hansen, the Executive Director of Sail Last. We really appreciate your coming on and look forward to having you again. Ciao.
Thank you, Tom.
And just
David.
one last thing, and that's if Julia were here, and David will remember also to say, go back and read the comments.
Absolutely. We skipped a lot. There are some very good comments in there.
Exactly right. Go back and read them, and we tell everybody at the end of the show, and we do it just to be sure there's nobody leaving terrible remarks, they say. But they don't, because the Fozy on here are so good. Thanks, Tom. Ciao for now.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. I think that deserves a Bravo Zulu, and I just think it's not only happening with Tom Hansen and co. I hope other organizations are really making a sincere effort. I'm sure they are. But just some couple of friends who are doing this, I know, and I've talked to them this morning about it, telling them that we were having Tom Hansen on. As Tier de Jong says, good luck and great cause. Cool interview, Ted Ryman saying. Matthias Collins, good luck, Tom. Blake Middleton, thanks for joining, and on and on and on. But I just wanted to go back to say Bravo Zulu, not only to Tom Hansen, but to others who are doing the same. We know about some of the guys like Jim Kilroy, the late, great Jim Kilroy, and others who always made an effort, made it a point to take kids on the boats with them sailing. And it's smart. You don't have to pay a pro. You give them a lunch and they become part of your crew. But also you're leaving a legacy. You're doing something great for the sport, as is John Sangmeister, who in the recent Islands race, which is a race Newport Harbor and out around the islands and into San Diego, on his, what is it, a Santa Cruz 70, I guess. I think it's a new boat or a new old boat. And John had on his rock and roll 5 different kids. Okay, I'm not sure we can call Jeffrey Peterson, who's a Fozy, a kid anymore, but Jack, his sons Jack and Peter Sangmeister, as well as Cooper and Harrison Smart, were on that boat in the Islands race. Bravo Zulu to Sango, and also to another Fozy, who's often on here watching. I hope he is now. He has a J145, and you'll have to pronounce that.
A Montefiore.
Which means?
Apparently it means chick magnet.
It does. I had to ask him this morning what it meant, because I don't speak French the way you do. What did you think it meant?
I thought it meant lover of girls, or lover of women, but it's loved by women, apparently.
Loved by women. Chick magnet. Loved by women. Steve Ernest, who is he's a lawyer down in SoCal, and USA. He's a member of Transpac Yacht Club. He's got this J145, which he has bought purposefully, specifically. You see the kid here. I got a camera 4. This is his, I don't know what he is, 13, 14 he looks like. And his nickname is Rue. His son's real name is Oliver. And Steve has bought that boat so they can do the Transpac together. He didn't send me these pictures. I had to ask him permission this morning to use it. He didn't know I was going to run this. But the kid down below, that is Oliver, not looking too happy in that photo, like, hey, what am I doing here, Dad? But he's probably cold in this Islands race a couple weeks ago. Steve's son, Oliver, a.k.a. Rue, but he does a lot of helming himself. And what a wonderful experience. Okay, here's a kid with a dad that is a sailor and just wants to have the time, the bonding time and so on with his kid. Marvelous stuff. And I saw this picture of Steve and Oliver on on Steve Ernest's Facebook page, and I said, what's this all about? And because I knew we were going to have this segment on today, and Steve says, yep, I called him this morning. We're doing the 2023 Transpac on our J145 Chick Magnet with my son Oliver, aka Rue. And what a wonderful thing that is, David. And the same thing happened to you with you and your dad and people like Conrad Wedekind.
Absolutely. And, I was a competent sailor by the time big boats by the time I was, an adolescent. And I'll tell you, if you can learn to service winches by the time you're 12, you will never have trouble finding a place on a Grand Prix boat.
How true that is.
And Blake Middleton said on Minnetonka, we see adult E-Scow sailors bringing on teams of extra young lasses and lads for some races. Not keelboats, obviously, but the same concept. And I'll say here in the 105 fleet in San Francisco, more than half the boats have at least one junior because it's a great way to get to the weight limit. If you're 100 pounds short of making weight, you bring on board a 100-pound kid, and that person rapidly turns into a good sailor who will stay with your program.
You see Hansen still watching in Lauderdale. He's smiling. He liked that idea. Well, exactly. And again, as Tom said in that segment, one of the big problems is finding crew these days.
Absolutely.
Because when we were growing up, I'm in a fan. I don't know how many siblings you had.
I was an only child.
You're an only child. So that's the way Meg is, our daughter. And I'm from a family of 5. It seemed like there were always kids running around the club looking to go sail on boats. And today there's a lot of single family parents and parents with no kids. So what a great thing. Bravo Zulu to all of them that are bringing kids into the sport and the big boat end of the sport. And as you said, David, so well, not just going out and rocking and rolling in 4 Twinkies and Optimus, right?
I mean, that's not a bad way. I don't mean to say anything against learning.
Well, do that too, right?
You need to do that if you want to be a successful sailor in later life. But if that's all you do, unless you win the Opti Worlds, like, what's the point of going on? And it burns out a lot of kids.
Exactly. And you can go sailing with other friends. Or you can, adding a kid or two, especially a lightweight kid or two. I mean, it doesn't matter, but a couple of other teens on the boat isn't going to do much to your competitiveness. And if it's the boys and the girls like to sail together and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I was going to say, we talk a lot about gender mixture on this program. That's a great way to do it. This is one of the few mixed gender sports that the teens can participate in.
Fabulous. And younger than teens.
Yeah.
Stephen Ernest is on. Thanks, Stephen, for coming on. He's 13. He'll be 14. Okay, we guessed his age about right. He'll be 14 on Friday. Give him our best, please, Stephen. Bill Wingrove, I did it on a J145 Katara in 2019. I assume he means yeah, he does. Good boat to sail a Transpac on. Alan Long replying to J. Frederick Bland. James down in Texas. The newer keelboats act a lot like dinghies. The J70, the 99, the 111 are amazing for their sizes. Rue, Steve is saying his son Rue, a.k.a. Oliver, drove about a third of the Islands race, every point of sail, including maneuvers. Bravo Zulu. Ken Saban, impressed by watching Tom Hansen, young people working on the boat. Indeed. Okay, shall we? Speaking of coaches, and one of our Fozy who's on here, this is what we call the Train Hard, Sail Easy segment with Master Mentor John Emmett, and he submitted a video that is very cool indeed, even though he's on vacation.
Hi Tom, Julia and all the Fozy. I'm here again in sunny Cornwall, although as you can see today, perhaps not quite so sunny. So I'm touring around, but as always thinking very much about sailing. And I've got a little bit of video today and a little thought about junior sailing. because actually that's hopefully when people first get into sport at a young age, and then we have a sport for life. So the boat we have here is the RS Fever for people who are interested. We chatted to 2 of the teams on the most recent Restart Sailing show. So that's one team that's absolutely new to sailing and one team that's actually thinking of doing the next stage, which from the Fever is to the 29er, which is an asymmetric trapeze boat, or the 420, which is a traditional spinnaker trapeze boat. So yeah, I think anything that gets sailors involved in the sport from a young age is really important. And if you do get a chance to check out the interview, it's very interesting to hear that one of the main reasons was to have something fun to do as soon as the lockdown was finished. So hopefully you have a great show, and hopefully Friday the sun will be back out again. Lastly, thank you to Lily, my camera lady.
And his wife. They're in Cornwall. They're out in the west on a holiday, and John not only sent us a video yesterday, he sent us another one today, and will apparently on Friday. We're deeply appreciative, John. Monica Diaz in Spain is talking about Sebastian Destremau, who's saying the French Vendée Globe skipper just finished a big sailing trip with his teenage daughter Jade from Australia to France on board his Imoca 60.
That's impressive.
That is very impressive. Peter Taylor, apparently they're talking about what, see, that you know, from being on the show, you know there's always a big deal about whether Emmett has shaved or not.
I do. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the idea of going to Cornwall for vacation in February and March. But
finger wag from Julia for you. What did Stingray say? Uh-oh, the shaves Lily gives him are amazing. That deserves the finger wag.
Well, my response deserved a finger wag, so I was.
Now but wait, there's more. John sent this after the video this morning. Remember he sent us something on Monday, some food or something, and
Cornish pasties, I think.
That was it. Now you see this. He says the West Country is not famous just for cider, and he had the other night on Friday. I think he'd had some cider when he came on live. Maybe he was relaxed. But he said out there in Cornwall, I don't know what this is, but he says all my photos seem to be about food, so they're at least eating well out there on their holiday. He says it's all gone. He says it's all gone now. Joe Cool, thanks for your nice comment. Yeah, we talk about the America's Cup too much because so many people are interested in it. I love it. I've been involved in it since forever and since 1980. But it's nice to have people who are doing great things for the sport, like Tom Hansen, like, as we saw the other day, Aaron Burry and others who just are terrific people, as is our fill-in for Julia. Great to have you with us, David. Thank you very much for joining us. David James from across the bay, San Francisco Yacht Club, St. Francis Yacht Club, and also the Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club, as we talked at the top of the show. Let's get into my favorite segment. It's amazing, David, how many people like this segment. And I don't know if you saw these slides when we were doing the quick run through.
I may have.
You may have seen it. On this day in history, the 1st of March, I actually have two. First one from 1872. This is your only clue. You probably know where that is. You being from this western part of the States. You grew up here in San Francisco?
In Sausalito, which is close enough, and San Francisco.
Well, I mean here in the Bay Area.
Yes, yeah.
So you know that this is?
I do, actually.
And you've been there many times?
No, I don't think I've ever been there in
really?
person.
Well, let's see who else knows where that is. David, very well done sitting in for Julia. I'm sure she'll be equally proud when she reviews this show later. Thanks, Blake.
Oh, Ed Worley was the first one to get it.
Worley got it. That is Yellowstone. That is James Bland has it, and others. Yeah, everybody's filling in. Well, do you know what today is?
Today was the day that Yellowstone was made a national park, the first national park.
Exactly right. And you always, when you're online, you always seem to get these things among the very first, if not the first. Today, and it was 150 years ago Notice that, 1872.
Exactly.
Establishment of Yellowstone as the world's first national park. I had no idea. Yellowstone National Park, situated in the western U.S. and designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, was established by the U.S. Congress as the country's and the world's first national park on this day, 150 years ago today. On this day in history, 1 March 1872. David, you're erudite, went to Stanford, bright boy. Is this going to be an environmental disaster in our lifetime? Is this thing, the caldera, is it going to bubble up and explode and cover at least the western half of the U.S., if not the entire world, in smoke and smog and particulate?
It will be an environmental catastrophe one day, but statistically in our lifetime, 0.000000001.
So we shouldn't worry about this.
It's the least of our worries.
Should we be more worried about President Putin using tactical nukes?
I suppose it's a higher probability, although personally I think that's also pretty remote. I think that, as pointed out in the comments, a bigger risk right now is having our picnic baskets stolen by Yogi the Bear.
Yellowstone Park with the comic, the television comic. That was a fabulous Yogi Bear. Yeah, but that was no, that was the Flintstones. Yabba dabba do. Let me guess, the Prez at the time liked bear hunting. Stingray knows the story. Flyover makes courtesy of Yellowstone. Yeah, okay. So enough about Yellowstone. What else happened on this day in history? 60 years ago, in 1962.
I know this one also.
Okay, let's give our Fozy the first clue and see if anybody can, if this picture helps. What happened 60 years ago today, 1962? Anybody have this? Any idea who this is? And this is a few years after 1962. When Yellowstone blows, it will be a civilization-ending event, probably way in the future. Chris Exley has it right. Russell Coots was born. Coots happened. Stingray Coots happened. Yeah, that's RC. He doesn't know I have that picture. And I've used it before. But Russell was born on this day, March 1st. Of course, it's March 2nd on New Zealand now. And I first met Russell, not here. This is the Olympics 84. I met him at the World Youth Championship in, I don't know, 79, 80, something like that. And he was winning those as well, and then showed up in LA in 84 and won a medal, but not until his very last clothing weighing. And there's Ralph Roberts, our Fozy and dear friend. Now, Coots was hatched, Stingray is saying. And I was there at this weighing. I didn't take the photo, but I was there representing the jury as the jury secretary and watching this weighing, because Russell, the first 2 or 3 weighings, his clothing was too heavy, and I can't remember what it was, 20 kilos at the time, all your clothing. And he, the engineer that he is, he positioned it, or was about to be, I guess, still before he graduated, but repositioned it and positioned it and drained it. You put the water in a 55-gallon, the clothing in a 55-gallon drum, lift it out on this contraption, and it drains for 1 minute, not 1 minute, 1 second, 1 minute, and then you take the weight after it has drained for a minute, and it had to be below. Well, and I had to reposition it several times to get it to work. So he was not too heavy.
It's amazing that anyone from the era of weight jackets is still able to walk around.
Well, now that's a horse of a different color, because those of us who weren't fit and wearing weight, because we didn't have any limit. We wear in racing lasers and sunfish, even fireballs. I was a little skinny little twink, and I wore 60, 70 pounds of wet sweatshirts.
Did the wool sweater in the water?
Well, it wasn't even that. We'd go out with this. We made purpose-built sweatshirt jackets, and there were 6, 7, 8, 9 layers, and you put grommets in it and tied it together with laced them together, and you'd go out, hop in the water before the start, come back up a lot heavier than the 20-kilo limit, which there was at this time when RC was doing this, and you'd get back, if you could, get back into your boat and sail upwind, and hopefully the thing drained a little bit as you were going upwind, and you were less heavy on the downhill, so you could plane and go fast downwind. But I've had 2 major back operations as a result of wearing way too much weight. You're a skinny guy. Did you wear weight?
Well, we weren't allowed to intentionally wear weight.
Oh, you're young.
if you happened to wear something that was porous and it got heavier, well,
Yes. Well, Paul Henderson and I, when I was on the Council of World, what was then IYRU, we pushed through and with the help of a lot of others, because people who are like I am, long-backed and short-legged, have lower back problems. People who are athletic and fit like Russell is, short back and long legs, have knee problems. You think about all the sailors that were, especially the Finn sailors and some of those guys from our era. You're young, so at least we had limits on by then. I've got some other photos to commemorate Russell's 60. It's hard to believe he's 60. This is the medal ceremony, or shortly thereafter, I think. And then, of course, fast forward to San Diego '95, when he won the Cup for Team New Zealand with the late great, you know who that is?
Oh, Peter Blake?
Peter Blake.
Sir Peter Blake.
Sir Peter Blake. And that put Russell firmly on the America's Cup radar screen, winning it in '95, and then winning it for Team New Zealand, successfully defending in 2000. And remember, he let Dean Barker race the last race. It was first to win 5, I think. And Russell won the first 4, and then he let Dino race the first 5. Or the 5th race, which was a very nice gesture. And then, of course, he went to, people use stronger words than that, don't they? He went to Switzerland, defected.
That is a nice euphemism.
He went to sail for Ernesto Bertarelli. He took his tight 5 with him, including there's Brad Butterworth in the lower right, and won the Cup again, now 3 times in a row, this time for Alinghi for the Swiss. And then we hired him, Larry Ellison. I was about the only person left from the early teams. And we hired Russell for the 2010 campaign, which he then won. We won. Larry and Russell and Jimmy, or Jimmy, in this photo, you got Russell in there, but Larry, Russell, Jimmy, AC 33, Valencia 2000, 2010. Russell took 07 off. John Kostecki there in the lower right. And then this is the 2013 campaign here, which Russell in the middle was, again, our CEO, team CEO, and started to run the event with a terrific team of guys here, and we won that one. And then, of course, they went to Bermuda. I declined to go to Bermuda because I don't agree with the Cup having been run offshore, just like I don't support the Kiwis running it anywhere other than in New Zealand, particularly Auckland. But Russell won that Cup. He's had a full life, won the Cup a bunch of times. Here he is with his dear friend. They are not great friends, are they?
No, but that's a fun photograph.
Do you remember this? It was during I think it was leading up to 2013, the 2013 Cup, like maybe in January, and the Cup was happening. And tell me when it was happening in May.
There were some tense news conferences.
Yeah. And this, of course, with Grant Dalton. And Russell, very kindly, I advised him, I advised against it. I said, Russell, why are you doing this? And he said, well, I want to go down and I'm going to raise some money. And I'm a Kiwi and I want to help our country raise some money. And he and Daltz had a little bit of a, shall we say, discussion. It was a spirited debate there on the stage, black tie event. I don't remember what it was for. I said, Russell, and he said with a twinkle in his eye, no, I'm going to do it. Russell's a lot of fun. He's a leader of men and women. And it was terrific. And of course, now he is leading Sail GP, and bravo Zulu to him. This day in history, he was born 1962. So just a bit of a tribute to him.
And Blake Middleton left a comment, which brings back a fantastic memory for me as well. He said he first met Russell when he was running a match racing practice week with Russell helping Jeff Madrigali, in Solings, tuning up for the match racing in the Olympics. And this must have been while I was at Stanford, because I was the videographer for that. So
you were?
I was on the boat with Blake, and he was the coach, and I was I would do the videotaping of the starts after start, and the mark roundings and so forth. And
where was that, here on the bay?
It was over in Richardson Bay with the debriefs at San Francisco Yacht Club in the Commodore's room afterwards. And you have to imagine, for a 17 or 18-year-old, aspiring sailor, to be sitting there listening to Russell Coutts and Jeff Madrigali debating match racing tactics.
What year?
Well, it was for the Olympics in '92, so
it would have
been,
the Soling was still, and Madro was sailing.
He was match racing, and Russell was helping him tune up, so it would have been 91-ish.
Nice. Yeah, I umpired that Olympics in the match race. That was the first match racing in the Olympics, and then nice comments here. Do you still have that video, Matthias Collins, who's a soling sailor, by the way? Matthias he was born in Connecticut, I think. Do you still have that video? Do you still have that video?
No.
Okay, that would be fantastic.
That would
92,
be
or was it 90?
now.
Maybe 96. David, you were a critical help. Blake Middleton is saying with that event. Ed Worley saying, yeah, Russell is a class act. What other comments here? You can scroll up and see the comments.
Yeah, there's some more about the weight. Blake said that Gordy Bauer's back is still in major discomfort after years of wearing wet sweatshirts when he raced fins.
Yeah. And that's Gordy and I got to know each other at the Championship of Champions in it was in 70. I won it in 76, and Gordy, I think, was second. And we compared bad backs, and it was a terrible. We got cold and windy, Y-flyers. Exactly, Clark Chapin, I remember those discussions in the old U.S. Sailing Inshore Committee about weight limits and backs. Exactly. And Gordon Smith, do I have an interesting scar? Yeah, the back operations, I was 20 the first time and 30 the second time, and the scar is, Clark Chapin said, show him your scar. I'm not LBJ, I'm TFE. Lyndon Baines Johnson, our late great president in the 60s, I don't know how great he was, the Great Society anyway, but he used to pull up his shirt and show his guests from around the world his big scar from what?
Was it appendicitis?
I think it was an appendix removal scar. No, I won't do that. But I do have a good long scar and from twice in my lower back.
Well, Matthias Collins points out, correcting me, that it was 96, not 92.
It was
Olympics.
96. In fact, I won't bore you all with this, but Julia is in hospital having a spinal tap today. And last night I said, Julia, I don't know whether to tell you this, but having the pre-op, this is pre-op, because they go in and they check your spinal fluid and do some things before they fix your lower back. And these days you do it with an MRI. You take a scan and it's not invasive and so on. But in our day, you had to go in there and inject to take radio X-rays, and they'd put radioactive dye into your spine and then tip you around and start taking all these X-rays. And then they had to take the dye out. And when they did, they took some of your fluid out of your skull as well.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Oh, it was awful. And I said to Julia, well, I'm sure they're much better at it than when I had it done 40
we should do
years ago.
A watch party of Spinal Tap.
The movie.
Yeah.
Actually, LBJ had his gallbladder. That was it. Gallbladder removed while in office, and he showed everybody his scar. Got 5 back surgeries, still sailing and working. Boat so much fun. Yeah, Ken Saban. Ted Ryman replying, okay, used to like flashing his Johnson.
Am I supposed to do
You're supposed to shake your finger at Ted Ryman, who's a hoot in Cape Town. I just one last, we're wishing Russell, we wanted more than just recognize this day in history 60 years ago, but he is not just he's a good golfer, not quite scratch golfer. He's a hell of a good golfer. And happy 60th birthday and happy birthday, Russell, and best wishes for many more. Right, David?
Yeah, and Bill Wingrove says, met Russell in Miami when he was racing the RC44s on the VIP boat. He was going over the scores and talking about the races and different legs and mark roundings, just like you would around any clubhouse.
Now, RC is a good guy and been great for our sport, and we'll get him on here. Hopefully during Sail GP when it comes in a month's time. It's less
Absolutely.
than just at the end of this month. The America's Cup will give you a quick cup date, our AC37 cup date. As always, we told you yesterday, we broke the news, in fact. I'm not sure it was known else, but since we ran it yesterday, it's been run all over the place because we had, thanks to Stingray, we had this article from Sir, which was a Spanish article that Stingray ran through his translator, the Google Translate, and the headline, Spanish central government refuses, their words, not mine, to finance Malaga's America's Cup. That is, Madrid would not give them the money because they're already committing money to Malaga so they can host the 2027 Expo. We told you that yesterday in an article by Ignacio Lilio Moreno, and SirEnglish.com, Sir in English, S-U-R meaning south in Spanish, in English.com. And I talking with Monica Diaz, who is our star reporter and good friend, Fozy, in the south of Spain, just up the coast from Malaga, or maybe down the coast. She's trying to get a hold of this guy to find out really what was going on, to talk to him in their native language. So thanks for that, Monica Diaz. Also, news that came last night. Several of you sent me the letter which got leaked to the Spanish media by the folks in Valencia, and now Richard Gladwell has also today written a story about it. But the former America's Cup harbor in Valencia, they were also campaigning, the yacht club and others, campaigning to get the cup to Valencia. And then this letter was received by Alejandro and Carlos, who are two of the officials behind that bid at the yacht club, from Grant Dalton, the CEO of Emirates Team New Zealand, just in the last few days. I will not read the letter to you, but will excerpt the important paragraph. We all know that Valencia, Grant Dalton says, could host a spectacular Copa America, but without the financial support and considering the time pressures, that puts us all in a difficult position. Therefore, Grant Dalton, have decided that we now need to focus our efforts and attention on the shortlisted venues. Remember that, because Richard Gladwell makes a big deal out of this. On the shortlisted venues, plural, that have already secured the financial support and commitments we need, as well as having the facilities, infrastructure, and on-water, on-board setup land we need for the event. Unfortunately, Valencia is not included, given the lack of necessary financial support at this stage, and therefore we need our discussions with the Real Club Náutico Valencia and the city on this matter and focus. We need to, therefore we need our discussions on this matter, I guess, to end, and our attention on completing a venue agreement for AC37 in the coming weeks with the other possible final venues. That letter from Grant Dalton to the VLC AC37 bid leaders here in the last few days. Now, there's nothing surprising to those of you who've been on here watching this show for the last X many months, because we've been telling you there was not a snowball's chance that it was going to be in Valencia when the mayor long ago said, we don't want it here. We're still trying to swallow a 300 million euro deficit from the 07 Cup. And part of it was this building that they built, the so-called pancake building. This is the building Edificio Velas Events, Velas Sales and Wind. Velas Events, Sales and Wind, and that's in Valenciano, not in Spanish, from memory, that's the name. That's the replica of the Yacht America. It's down in San Diego.
Valencia was a great host, though.
They were a great host. Were you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a terrific, terrific event. So John Emmett is saying, roll on March 31st. Emmett loves the America's Cup discussions we have on here, right, John? Stingray saying, yeah, venues that have already secured financial support was unfortunately not the case despite that late December letter. Yeah, well, so Richard, our friend and Fozy, Richard Gladwell, wrote today, it's the second down there in Auckland, headline, America's Cup, several European venues clear the you talk about putting a positive spin on things, Richard. Several European venues clear the financial bar to stage the 37th Cup. In a letter leaked to the Spanish media last week, ETNZ CEO Grant Dalton, the one we just read you, has advised, or excerpted from, has advised one of the venue candidates, Valencia, that they have been excused from further consideration due to the insufficient financial support, yada, yada. Valencia, as you just said, David, was the venue for the highly successful 07 America's Cup and also the 2010 Deed of Gift match. I thought that match was quite successful, too.
Although, as a spectator, it was not. I went for the 2010 thing as well and ended up staying in my hotel room because...
It was cold.
It was cold, and there were very few... It was so far offshore, you couldn't even see it with binoculars.
I was out on the damn race committee boat freezing my cojones.
That was no fun.
It was no fun. With purpose-built infrastructure, the last paragraph for the 07 America's Cup, Valencia was an obvious candidate, Richard Gladwell writes, and to host the 37th Cup after a 3-month exclusive negotiation between the NZ government and ETNZ broke down with the two parties well apart. So said Richard Gladwell. Now, Gladwell went on to say, to date, it was believed that only one of the self-announced venues, Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, had been able to post the required financial undertakings to host the event. Other venues in the mix included Cork, which has gone dead quiet, Jeddah, and several American venues, Valencia, Barcelona, and Malaga. And they're all cooked. They're done. There was never really anything in Barcelona. Trust me. And Monica Diaz is on here. She will confirm that for you as well. But this is Richard's writing today. However, Dalton's comment that, quote, we have decided that we now need to focus our efforts and attention on the short-listed venues, plural, that have already secured the financial support and commitments we need, as well as having the facilities, infrastructure, and on-water. Yeah, that's that quote we just read you. Would indicate that multiple, this is Richard saying, would indicate that multiple venues have met the required criteria. Fat chance, Richard.
I can think of one venue that does have the facilities, infrastructure, and on-water on board set up for the event.
And would the airport code for that city be AKL?
It would, in fact.
Now, we didn't have, by the way, I don't want you to think that we had a tryout for David to see what his views were on hosting the event onshore or offshore in Auckland.
I think James Frederick Bland does make an interesting observation that the fireworks show in Europe would be spectacular, courtesy of Vladimir Putin.
Gladwell Stingray saying Gladwell also wrote about how there were 25 venues in competition, shortlisted to 12, then down to 4. But the truth is, there is no actual competition. Rule 69 blog has it right. Europe is a bust. J. Frederick Bland is saying, well, you know what, James, we may actually get to that as well here in a sec. But that's Richard Gladwell, our foes. He's been on the show. Perhaps Clark Chapin can confirm as many or more times than anybody. And we love Richard, but he is as he needs to be, he is a Kiwi homeboy, and he's a fan. He gets upset when I say that, but he is. He's got to support his home team, and I don't blame him one bit for writing this. But speaking of the Rule 69 blog, James Bland, we have that, which comes early in the morning here. As David said, first thing you read in the morning. I get it about, 4:30, I guess. Kawa Rawa A mate, which I guess means never say die, mate. And Magnus used that as his headline for today's blog post. A week ago, he says, New Zealand was dead in the water, geographically on the back foot, protests at Parliament, stuck in the pandemic, hampered by second-rate political decisions and overzealous posturing, he writes well, from politicians, and at the mercy of sports sponsors and investors who all want more bang for their buck, but never count the underdog out, never call a Kiwi down. I've done it, I'll admit, and every time I'm wrong. He went on to say, I'm going to skip through. It was a good post. I commend it to you. Go read his, not only his post today, which you can see online, but subscribe to his Rule 69 blog. And it's a newsletter also, like Scuttlebutt, that comes out 5-6 times a week, sometimes 7 times a week.
Very prolific.
He is prolific. And it's rule69.blog. You can have it. It'll be sent right to your email inbox because it's cool to read, even when he's wrong. Come on. Even when he's wrong. And he's been wrong about Auckland. He's been saying, it's not going to be in Auckland. It's going to be here, there. Now he writes, there's a window of opportunity right now that's opening for New Zealand to do this deal, which we said on yesterday's show. The curtain of opportunity in Europe is closing fast, which we said on yesterday's show and before. Politicians are running from the sunny sporting uplands of post-pandemic regeneration to the bunker. That's an interesting allegory, isn't it? With Hitler and Putin.
Indeed it is.
This guy's clever. Reality is biting. The odds to hold the cup in New Zealand are shortening by the hour. The opportunity should be seized. And with the full A team back in situ at Team New Zealand, meaning Pete and Blair, they saw the light and re-signed. Yep, I think that's a good point. And with the borders finally opening up again, there's more than enough reason to think that the sensible and right option is a cup, a slimmed down version on home waters. Could not agree more. As you know, we've been saying that here for any number of weeks, months, maybe even a year. But wait, there's more. This last little comment here wrapped up his article today. It would be a different cup. It would be a measured event. It should be shorn of the bloat. Julia's been saying this for months. It should be shorn of the bloat that the cup has become, that it would be everything. But it would be everything. I think it's the deal that must be done rather than can or should be done. David.
Although he says it should be shorn of the bloat that the cup has become, but he also, as part of the deal, wants to fly everyone into Cagliari and out again, fly everyone into Valencia and out again, fly everyone into Newport and out again, presumably into Cowes and out again, with the big boats as well as the AC-40s, which hardly seems like a cost savings
I don't think
measure.
with the big boats. I think I read that too, and I didn't read it carefully enough, and you obviously did, but I think he meant to say, you reading it from it now?
Well, he says the AC-40s do the same, essentially aping the format.
Yeah, I think what he meant is fly the AC-40s in, have a pre-regatta in Cagliari, which is, of course, the home port for Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. Right. Do the same thing up in the UK with Sir Ben Ainsley's team with Ineos Britannia, and then go to Newport for...
I think it's a fabulous idea and a fabulous format, but it's hardly a cost savings measure.
Well, true, and that's the whole AC-40, that whole thing a lot of people have suggested is a boondoggle and a boat-building boondoggle for ETNZ.
If they can fit them in 40-foot containers and ship everyone around that way without building venues and maybe have all the bases also in 40-foot containers, yeah, I guess it's theoretically possible.
Yeah, Stingray is saying it will only be the AC-40s doing the circuit. I think Stingray's right. Chris Exley, thank you, sir, for teeing us up with Tom Hansen. Chris Exley, who introduced that segment. Got to go, great show, if he does say so himself. Stingray also saying Dalton has a good excuse to face the facts and come home. Nobody wants it more than Auckland. And John Emmett also saying it's looking more like 2025. Clark Chapin saying Gladwell has been the featured guest. Oh, he's counting up the guests for us. Gladwell has been the featured. Clark keeps a spreadsheet for us as our so-called navigator. He has been the featured guest 12 times, surpassed only by Hamish Ross's 14 times. So Magnus the Magnificent, he's come around finally to our view, and I think he's right. Now, we told you on Monday that this campaign is really ramped up, and it's ramped up further in New Zealand, the so-called Kiwi Home Defense. Stop the cup from sailing away, and they have numbers now 1 through 16 of the reasons. I read a bunch of them the other day. I'm not going to read. I just show these to you as 3 of the reasons we showed you yesterday on Monday. But go to their website, go to their Facebook page, and you'll find it quite interesting. And a lot of now, not only reasons that people have submitted, or the PR firm maybe has written some of them themselves, but they're getting these videos with each passing day. And I've seen another 4 or 5 videos today, maybe more, since I put the show together earlier this morning. And I've got some more for you. I'm going to start with one I ran yesterday from our longtime friend and foesy,
every turn has
Larry
New
Keating.
Zealand rejected offers from New Zealanders to get behind the cup. Everyone that I've spoken to wants the next America's Cup in Auckland in 2024. So let's hear what you have to say about it.
Now, Keating goes back. Larry, as I said, longtime friend. We haven't always agreed on things. We've been on opposite sides of some of the issues, the Big Boat Series back in '88. But Larry's been involved in the Cup as long as Gary Jobson, as long as Bruno Troublé, myself, and a handful of others, Laurent Esquier, and he is a very keen and sharp mind and voice. And I that's why I run that one again. When he says everybody that he talks to wants it in New Zealand, I believe him. Now, here's a new video.
Seeing people back on our waterfront during the pandemic in 2021 was brilliant. And given how hard our city has been hit, it would be a great big beacon of hope to know it was coming back in 2024. Share your reason for keeping the cup here, right where it belongs.
I don't know the lady, but just one, Viv Beck, I guess is her name, just another of the very strong voices, cool voices. Now, here are a couple of kids from
We're a key New Zealand sporting
the Treacy family.
We won the America's Cup, and we want to come to Auckland to help defend the cup.
New Zealand's great sense of fairness demands the America's Cup be defended in Auckland.
Now, again, these weren't videos that the PR firm went out and said, hey, say this, and here's what we want you to say. These are videos, I'm told, and I'm reliably informed, were submitted by these people on their own volition. Now, here's a famous businessman down there. Have a look at this.
There is no question in my mind that it would be fantastic for us to keep the cup in New Zealand. We would need to have an unfair advantage against these guys. Let's unlevel the playing field and win. I think New Zealand is all about winning the world from the edge. So let's bring the world back to Auckland and let's win it again. So please get involved. Keep the cup in New Zealand. It will make a difference. We've earned it over the last 2 years. We deserve it. We want to see the country rise again. Freedom. Let freedom ring. Keep the cup in New Zealand.
Let freedom ring. That's Kevin Roberts, whom I've met. He's a businessman of considerable repute down there, and a terrific. Now, he's a terrific guy. Now, this one is a famous broadcaster, sports announcer. Have a look and listen at this one.
It is essential that we have a home defence for the America's Cup, or that famous line, the America's Cup is now New Zealand's Cup, will be changed to the America's Cup is now Grant Dalton's Cup. The winning of the America's Cup and the Rugby World Cup are the two sporting events that galvanised our country more than anything else. For us to get back the passion, the pride, and the joy of the event, it is essential that we have it here at home. It all started with Red Sox, and then taxpayers' money and ratepayers' money made it our cup. For it to be our cup, it needs to be done in our water, or it is no longer our team.
Murray Deeker. Now that is, those of you who may, I don't know if you remember, Murray Deeker has had various television shows, sports announcer, and so on and so forth. He was interviewing Dennis Conner, and I didn't think it was appropriate to put the tape in here, but he had Dennis on his show. It was a talk show, like it was a sports talk show, but it was more than that. And he and Dennis had a bit of a conflict, as Dennis has had with some other Kiwi commentators over the years.
Was that in regarding the plastic?
No, well, it was after losing. It was after losing in '83 and then winning in '87 and the 2010, the leading up to the '88 Cup. I can't remember. Oh. It would. Anyway, Murray Deeker. I thought that was powerful, and that's why I ended with that one. And I still think, as I've been saying now for weeks, if not, well, months, maybe a year now, before I even knew Mark Dunphy, but between Mark Dunphy and Grant Dalton, and I agree with Magnus, Dunphy's organization, Kiwi Home Defense, ought to help raise the money, help get the government involved. Grant should come back. He has a perfect excuse now, as several of you said in the comments. The war. Why do you want to go to Europe with this war on? How long is this going to drag on? How dangerous is it going to be? Maybe not, hopefully not, but who knows? Meantime, the clock is ticking. Let's go back to New Zealand, do a deal. Government come to the fore. Auckland City, come to the fore. Kiwi Home Defense, raise some private money, as you have promised to do. Dalts, get off your high horse, go back and host the Cup in the city and in the country where it belongs. Mark Dunphy, Jim Farmer, Grant Dalton. And that will then obviate the need for this gentleman, Sir Edmund Thomas, the prominent retired judge, who said he is going to take this whole event to court if it leaves Auckland. Forget about Jeddah. If it leaves New Zealand, he is going to go to court. And if he does, who knows how long that will take, how expensive that will be. I think that's the New Zealand courts, but if it ends up in the New York courts, God forbid, as we've seen in leading up to '88, as we saw leading up to 2010, that's a movie that I've been in twice. Hopefully it never happens again.
Well, when Jeddah was on the table, I understood the legal justification from the human rights perspective, but I don't see what jurisdiction he would have for it going to some other.
Well, you're a lawyer, and I don't know his legal strategy, but he thinks that there are, and it's obviously a different type of legal system than ours, and I'm told by Hamish Ross and others that there is a justification under Kiwi law for keeping it there because of all the public money and interest in rates and the trust that has been set up in New Zealand, and because the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, who is the trustee, would somehow be violating their trust.
Oh, their fiduciary duty
to run it someplace offshore. So I don't know, and hopefully it won't come to that, but if it does, it's going to be messy. Tier de Jong is saying, go Auckland. Let the holders, trustees of the Cup do their thing. Gordon Smith does not really support me in this, and he wants the trustee. If they want to run it in Europe, he's not unhappy with that. Stingray saying, do you see videos like this? Good point, right? Do you see any videos like this out of Malaga or Cork?
No, but is there anyone looking for them?
True.
And in all
yes,
fairness,
yes, we are. We were watching between Stingray, myself, and a handful of others. Anything that has the word Copa America, America's Cup, and several other
no,
languages.
but I mean, there's an organized marketing agency that went out to find these videos for Auckland, right?
To produce them.
So that's slightly different. And
Fair
you know,
point.
in all fairness, the passion in those videos is marvelous.
Yeah.
But the passion doesn't pay the salaries, and the passion doesn't buy the carbon fiber. So
exactly right. And that's why I said a minute ago, you're absolutely right that this guy has got to come good. Stop trying to run the team. Stop trying to, he tells me, he was on the show, stop trying to displace Grant Dalton, because as I said in yesterday's show, Dalton's the only guy that I think can run that team and win at this stage. Jim Farmer, I think, agrees. Jim just doesn't want to see it going to Jeddah, and Jim is not poor, and he says there are plenty of people in New Zealand willing to do just what you said, David, which is to pony up and help to write checks and help raise money.
well, I would think at a very minimum, give New Zealand right of first refusal or last look.
See, and Richard Gladwell and Grant Dalton would argue that we did just that. They gave them, they had a 3-month, a 90-day right of first negotiation. It wasn't
Well, that's different than
exactly
right of first refusal, right? I mean,
right.
Once there's something else binding on the table, then Auckland can match it.
And not only was it just a right of first negotiation, but we know that they were already out negotiating with other countries, other venues before that period was over, because we on this show we broke the news with the bid document that somebody sent us, and we're a bit surprised. Spot on comment. Gordon Smith's agreeing with you. Grant Dalton is looking for them. Alan Long is saying, here's John Emmett, latest from Ukraine. Looks like Russia wants to cut the country in two, grabbing territory east of the river makes cup venue choice definitely a minor issue. Oh dear. I
think that was pretty foreseeable and a good negotiating tactic on Putin's part.
Yeah. Well, Bill Wingrove, see that comment? You want to read that comment?
Tell the taxpayers, presumably of New Zealand, that about the passion and not about and not paying the bills. They've been paying the bills for a long time and deserve a return on their investment. That's a fair point.
That's a fair point too, isn't it? Okay, well, we'll see how this plays out. We'll see it between Dunphy, Farmer, Dalton, and as we said, Sir Ted, or Sir Ted, as he's called, Sir Edmund Thomas. I'd love to have on the show. I'd like to hear his views firsthand, especially David, with you here as a lawyer sitting in the chair. Well, we're to the D block, the wrapping up show number 501 for Tuesday, the 1st of March. It was great to have Tom Hansen with us. And the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot segment. We did not do a Jody Shields segment today, which is always one of our favorites.
Except for the music.
Yeah, except for the music. Good point. But I really didn't want, I knew the show was going to be a great one and a long one. So likewise here with Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, I didn't put any funny jokes in here today. I just didn't feel it was appropriate given what's going on in Europe. We'll let the guy shake, right? We'll let the guy shake his head. John Emmett says his ears are extremely grateful we didn't run the Jody Shields that segment either today. But, what was I going to do? We're going to talk about, again, whether blocking the Russians and the Belarusians. I think we all understand what that situation is about. We're going to talk about Auckland. Is that correct or Crutonic? The question is whether it's correct or Crutonic to let David sit in that chair. And I think everybody on here would agree. David, thank you. Terrific job. No rehearsal, just you wandered over here about 45 minutes before the show. We got you up here, poured you an iced coffee, and we appreciate you doing the job. Terrific stuff. And with that, we'll go to the finish line. And I do have one picture, not even a video, because I just thought this is uplifting in its own right. Steve Atkins sent this to us, our Fozy, Steve Atkins, past Commodore of the Madison Beach Club in Connecticut, and they are out putting their boats together. These are the Etchells, aren't they? I think they're Etchells.
Yeah.
He's also got Atlantics. They've also got some other boats, but he was in the dinghy park nearby, and he put the sticks up as a rite of spring. They're getting ready to launch and go sailing. He sent this picture, for which we're grateful, a sign of spring, signs of spring, and I thought that was an optimistic, forward-looking. For those of us in the northern hemisphere, anyway, maybe we can go sailing. I don't think they're Inglings, Gordon. I think they're Etchells. Thank you for the great show. Give Julia a hug from the Fosey. We will, Morris Stevens. Eggshells. Yeah, Bill Wingrove, they're Etchells. Best wishes to Julia. She's probably under the influence by now. They were going to do this pre-procedure today and tomorrow, and everything goes fine. They'll do the little bit bigger. But it's as I told David, it's not cancer. It's nothing life-threatening. Right, David?
That's right.
As she said on yesterday's show, I'm going in for an adjustment, and that's what she's going to do. So thank you all. Thank you for joining. David, your witness.
Well, it's been my privilege to serve here today. I hope it's going to be a very brief service because I wish the circumstances were different. But if you do wish to pass on your good wishes to Julia, the best way to do that is to like, follow, and share.
What a good point. Well done. A couple other comments. David, for your substituting for the queen of the Beach Street Yacht Club. She is that and more. And if you would like, follow, share, and also we leave comments. Most of you watch us in replay. Comments are welcome too, even replay. And do go back, as Julia likes to remind us, go back and read the comments, because David and I only covered, a handful of them. Well, we probably got most of them today.
I hope we got the gist of it. We did leave out, there was apparently that black tie charity function between Daltz and Coots was a fundraiser for the Special Olympics, for the sonar crew for the Special Olympics.
Nice. In Auckland at the RNZ, Royal New Zealand.
Yeah, Richard Gladwell shared that with us.
Oh, was Gladwell on?
He was.
Okay. Well, I didn't see Richard on. Great, Richard. Thank you. Also, if you would support us on Patreon, give us $5 or $10 a month, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. We appreciate that. And we appreciate all the very nice video and images and audio we get from the various people around the globe. And I have this same new outro slide that is another Sharon Green photo. I love this photo. It may be my favorite Sharon Green photo of all time. Do you like that?
So, you had one show with a yachting photographer. I think it was a 2-part show that was, in my opinion, the best
show
ever. So you should get Sharon Green to do a similar one to that. That would be...
that's a hell of a good idea. It was Daniel Forster.
That's right.
Newport, Rhode Island. And we've only done one half of that. We did not done...
You said that there was going to be a follow-up, but
we haven't done it yet. It was his general yachting photos that we did, and from all around the world, Whitbread and from the Sydney Hobart and so on. But he has so many beautiful photos. I said, let's cut this in half, do those photos, which I knew would be a 2-hour show, and then all of his America's Cup photos, which are to die for. I mean, they're just fabulous. He's been doing the Cup since 70-something, 7?
They are, but it's not just that the images are so wonderful, but it's an opportunity to talk about the Kenwood Cup and the SORC and the America's Cup and the Sydney Hobart, because you have all these fantastic images which bring back such fantastic memories.
Super point. And it's the backstory that only a photographer like him, like Sharon Green, and everybody's agreeing, get Sharon on here, Clark Chapin, saying she just lives down the shore, down the coast, a longtime friend. We did a couple Cup campaigns together.
She'd be a great guest.
You've been a great co-host. Thank you very much, David. Thanks to all of you for watching, and we hope to see you on Friday. In the meantime, if you can, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun.